Hi everyone, I'm on location today at the plastic surgeon's office that I just left. It's starting to drizzle, so hopefully I'll make this quick, but every time I say that I talk for half an hour. Update. Yesterday I've been having bleeding for the past probably month. I think I mentioned this in the last vlog, but I had my appointment yesterday and I had surgery yesterday, which was unexpected. So I want to fill you in. So I had this brown spotting. It wasn't really like spotting. It's like the brown stuff that happens at the end of a period. I had that for like a week, and then I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You know, it wasn't like bleeding like a period. It was just like this brown stuff. And then I had it for another week, and I'm like, okay, I'm a little concerned now. So I reached out to my gynecologist because I assumed it was a gynecological thing. And she said, get in here next week. I'm like, great. She also told me to reach out to my oncologist and let her know, which I did. And she told me, get off the Tamoxifen right away. No red light there, or red flag there. So my brain fog had come back. They're just, got a whole different. There's just a bunch of things that had popped up. And then I had like a full blown out period for like 3 days. And then it went back to the brown stuff. And now it's a combination of different things. Anyway, so went in yesterday for, I don't know, I'm having a hard time holding this. I wish I had my selfie stick. So I went in yesterday to the gynecologist's office. They did blood work. I also had my Lupron yesterday. So I had my Lupron at 8 and then went back to the hospital, had the blood work because they want to check to see where I am in the whole menopause thing. I got numbers back already, but I don't know what they mean. And when I Googled, which of course, like you shouldn't do, makes no sense to me. I'm not a science person. One number says that I am in menopause, one number says that I'm not. I'm clearly not if I'm still bleeding. So the question is like, is the Lupron not working and that's why I'm bleeding? Or is there something else going on? So to see if there's something else going on, they did a hysteroscopy, which is them taking a camera and shoving it up your uterus to see what's going on. So I had that done yesterday. She said, I should listen to this before, but I'll re-listen and come back. There's 3 possible things she said could be wrong. And I haven't written down, I don't remember what they are now. I know one of them is that tamoxifen causes polyps, and polyps can be benign usually, and 1% of the time they're not. And I tend to be that 1%. I'm not thinking glass half empty. I know my body well enough at this point, and I've been a ridiculous advocate for myself that like that 1% is just, you know, a possibility for me. So the hysteroscopy was interesting because you're on this ridiculous plastic thing. My arm really hurts. And they basically like shove or like squirt the saline stuff into you the entire time, which I guess makes the uterus lining easier to see. So at first it was interesting because I looked over to my left and I could see like the inside of my uterus. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. And lots of people have fibroids. I have lots of fibroids. I also have adenomyosis. So my fibroids are on the outside of my uterus. And with the adenomyosis, the fibroids are inside of the lining of my uterus. And like on the outside is okay. And the inside is like, you got to monitor. Or I'm sorry, on the inside of the lining, you have to monitor. If it's actually inside your uterus, like that's not good. And I've never had a fibroid inside of my uterus. It's always been on the outside wall or in the actual endometrial lining. So tamoxifen, while the purpose is to be an anti-estrogen therapy for breast cancer, it also, and again, not medical doctor, there's my disclaimer, this is just from what I've learned, tamoxifen also has the opposite effect when it comes to your uterus. So it actually increases the thickness of the lining of your uterus, like you would be having more estrogen to your uterus. So there is an increased risk of uterine cancer from being on tamoxifen. The risk is very small, but it's there. And that's why they do testing like what I had done. So she did the hysteroscopy. She said the lining of my uterus wasn't really thick like you would normally see in someone who's been on tamoxifen. So that's a good sign that my lining is still thin. And honestly, the other two things I don't even remember. It's part of the brain fog, and it's part of just like my brain is overloaded with information, and I can only remember what I can remember. And I tell them, like, you know, you're gonna have to follow up with me because I'm not gonna remember this. So it's all in writing in the portal. So they did the hysteroscopy, and I looked over and watched on like the little TV thing what the inside of my uterus looks like. So it was cool, and I'm watching what she's doing. I'm like, oh, it's like watching a National Geographic documentary of my uterus. It was kind of interesting. And then she's like, and there it is. I'm like, what is? And they found a polyp. And she went by it a few times, and then she also found a fibroid on the inside of my uterus. Not great. So she said normally at that point, what she would do is say, you know, go down to make an appointment, get into an OR and have them remove it because it's not a comfortable procedure. And like, granted, when you have colonoscopies and stuff, you can get polyps and have them removed, but you're also sedated. I was not sedated. I was on 600 milligrams of Motrin, and that was it. So she asked me, you know, if I wanted to have them removed by her or schedule another appointment and go into the OR, blah, blah, blah. As soon as I heard OR, I'm like, I don't want to go back into an OR. And it's tough because you start getting really protective over your body. And I used to be like, oh, let's just get it over with. It'll be fine. But I know now to be respectful of my body's limitations. So I talked to her about like what the best thing to do is, because I said, honestly, at this point, I don't know what the best thing to do is. And I know I'm going to have like ridiculous cramping. So I asked her how long it's going to last, like in the office and after when I'm home. Clearly I'm here in a town that's not, you know, like it's like a half hour from me. So I was able to drive here this morning. And she said, I think that you can handle it. She's like, but you know, you will need to just be here a little bit longer so we can monitor you and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay. So I signed the consent. I kept watching the thing. And she's like, you might not want to watch it anymore. And I'm like, no, I'm curious. And then I look over on the table and I see this like barbaric, it's like this big. It's this big thing. It's the thing that they use to cut out the like fibroids or whatever. And it's funny because the handheld part is sticking out and the other part is covered up. And I said like how intimidating it looks. And she's like, well, if you think that's bad, she's like, you should see what's inside of you right now. And truly her going into my uterus, usually I have really bad cramping from that. And I think with the water or the saline distraction, it really wasn't that bad until the sickle came along. Because that's what it looks like. I love my gynecologist. She's not the Grim Reaper. But I look at the TV and I see this sickle next to the polyp. And she's like, don't look. She's like, don't watch, don't watch. And I'm like, curious. It's like a car crash. I'm curious. Do I look? I started to look, and then she started to cut. And oh my God, the pain in my lower right side. And apparently I was trying to do, you know, those Lamaze breathing classes, whether you've had a child or not, I think are important to take, or at least to do yoga, to know how to breathe, because I was breathing too fast. My blood pressure was ridiculously high. It was 168 over 103, I think, when I got there. It was relatively normal before I left, but they had to just monitor my breathing, you know, and just guide me, like, you know, slow down your breathing, breathe in, breathe out. So so I stopped looking. They even have one of those, like, for all you women out there that go to the gynecologist, you look up and there's usually like a picture of like the beach or something like calming on the top, on the ceiling, because you're looking up, you know. And she had this diorama kind of thing with like birds, and the birds are moving around, and because they're moving, I'm like, wah! So I just like tried to find a focal point to stare at. So anyway, she cut the polyp. I peeked a couple times and then I just stopped because the pain was too much. I had I think 6 heat packs on my lower abdominal region, because the heat packs help a ton. And as soon as one was like not blazing hot, I'm like, please switch out, please switch out. And they removed the fibroid. So they're sending those out to get tested. I'll get results. Today's, well, I had it done on a Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. I'll get the results on Friday or Tuesday of next week, because Monday's a holiday. And that will tell me if they're benign or not. And I'm praying to God that they're benign, because Jesus Christ, but I don't need to hear the M word. And I just pray that they're like, nope, they're benign. And I don't know what next steps are. I'm not even there. Like, I'm here. I'm so in the moment. I can't think about that far ahead. I can't have my mind go, because I just don't know. So there's no point in, it's like the definition of anxiety, being afraid of things that haven't happened yet. It's funny because my blood pressure was high, but I felt calm. Obviously it wasn't calm, but I felt calm. It's not like I was like, I wasn't like, I just stored it, but I wasn't hyperventilating or anything. I didn't feel anxious at all. So she did that, and she said I'd have bleeding afterwards and cramping. So I was on the couch. Like right now I'm outside and it's cold, so I'm distracted because I'm cold, but I need to get home and eat something and get back on the couch with the heating pad. So I've been alternating Motrin and Tylenol. I had to stop the Motrin just because I'm on Bayer. I had to get back on the Bayer and just take the Tylenol and just rest. I just have to rest and let my body just heal from what happened yesterday. And she said to me, because I've had so many people that tell me, why don't you just get your uterus removed? Like, you're 50, just get a hysterectomy. I have a much more compassionate outlook on the fact that everybody, like 2 words, is unique. Just because something worked for you does not mean it's going to be like the panacea for everybody else. That's not how it works. Well, I had this done and it was great. That's awesome. And thank you for a strategy I might not have thought of. But yes, of course, if you're having any uterine issues in the back of your head, you're wondering if you've had kids already, do you need your uterus? No, but there are some things that come up by having a hysterectomy and not having a uterus anymore. It's not like, granted, I believe it's mostly done laparoscopically now, but it's still a big deal. It's still surgery. And I've now had 2 surgeries in a year, and I'm at plastics right now. And, when he mentioned, here's what I can do surgically, and I'm like, that's great. And I'm not doing that now. Which is so funny because I so don't care what I look like right now. Because when you're a plastic surgeon, obviously, you're there to have your body look better. And when they throw out something that will make your body look better, like aesthetically, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Not now. And maybe that's the lesson. Maybe that's the lesson I just didn't pick up on. I'm so protective of my body now. I'm so much more. I advocate so much more now for my body. People say you're overreacting and stuff. That's bullshit. Sure, there's hypochondriacs out in the world, but I am not one of them. And I've had some very toxic people in my life who've told me that the things that I think are just the wrong things to think. And to them I say, fuck you. Because unfortunately it's taken me this long to get that, I can trust myself. And 2 surgeries is enough. So rewinding, I had a really good cry when I was there yesterday after she got her stuff out. They wouldn't let me sit up for a while. because as soon as you start sitting up, it's like cramp central. And like, you know, people dismiss cramping too. And I did too, you know, like I granted, before I had breast cancer and I found out somebody else had breast cancer, I'm like, oh, you know, well, what happens to one in 5 of us, blah, blah, blah. Having gone through it now, I'm like, holy fuck, it is such a bigger deal. Then just because it's so common doesn't make it any less. I don't blame myself for thinking that. It was out of ignorance, you know, and I'm so enjoying that book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, or Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. It's such a good read in general, but for this. Anyway, so I don't need to give you the play-by-play, but it took me a while to get up, and then I finally went up, like went to the bathroom to get my clothes back on, and like the blood is just like everywhere. It's eased up now. And then I was like wicked thirsty because then I did the blood work, whatever. So I was wicked thirsty. So I had 3 bottles of water and started getting nauseous. Don't know what that was about. So they gave me crackers. I was expecting saltines, and they were graham crackers. And I'm telling you, those graham crackers are the best thing I've eaten. And I don't know how long. I was like, oh my God, what a pleasant surprise. And then I'm like, I want to just go home. I want my heating pad on. I want Cold Stone ice cream in a waffle bowl. Like, that's what I want. But then I got up and got dressed and everything, and the cramping was so bad. And she's like, you just have to go home and lay down. And I'm like, I can't have ice cream. It's just too cold. It's too much of a shock to my system. I just have to go home and lay down. So my good friend drove me, and when we were driving home, I was fine. The office is like 25 minutes away. When I got to the parking lot of my apartment complex, I got super nauseous. And like, I don't really ever throw up. Super, super, super nauseous. To the point that like I got out of the car and sat on the curb in the parking lot, which is like not me at all. So I had to sit outside for a bit before I could manage the stairs to get up to my apartment. I don't know I think it's just all the stuff that's going on. It was just a lot. So, yeah. So then I just laid down, and she made me a grilled cheese, which is awesome. And then I had Gatorade or not Gatorade brand. It's like a low sugar electrolyte thing, just to get hydrated, and ginger ale, because I was still, you know, from the nausea, kept a bucket around, though I never threw up. And just laid with the heating pad and a waterproof like blanket underneath me in case I was like bleeding profusely, which I wasn't. My gynecologist is fantastic. I mean, I love her. She's wonderful. Her nurses are wonderful. And like even now, like they sent me home with this gargantuan pad on. There's not really, there's a lot of blood when I'm wiping, but like in the pad, it's not a lot. Like overnight, I don't think I had any spotting at all until I got up and, that's one of those cramps. They just like stop you in your tracks. I started having like pains in my lower left side is where it hurts right now. But like it's fast and it passes. I was watching this side note, and if I'm repeating myself from my last vlog, it's only because of the brain fog. I don't remember half the shit that I'm saying, but yet I can still do math really well, because math is like formulaic. Like when you're doing stuff that you've done for so long, it's not hard to do that. But when it's new stuff, like, oh, I just had this pain, what is that? Ugh, new information is like, nope, can't process new information right now. I will. It's just really fresh out of everything because everything happened yesterday. One of my friends is a psychologist, and she does a podcast. And I've mentioned before that I follow Jen Rozenbaum on social media. I found that her stuff has been the most helpful out of most of the things that I've followed. And it turned out that my friend, that's a psychologist, had interviewed her for a podcast, which was interesting. I'll share the link on the, I'll put it on my Facebook page. The Facebook page has the same name, Invasive Ductal Carcinoma. What? I know I should have found something easier to remember, but at the time I really wasn't concerned about it. Sorry, my head. So yeah, in their interview, this is what happens. I'm like, what the hell was I talking about? Oh, so Jen Rozenbaum is a boudoir photographer. And I'm like, how do you look at other women's bodies all the time when, like, your own body, like your own breasts were amputated? How do you look at that all the time? Like, there is a thing about boob envy that I just find myself looking at people's boobs all the time now. Not in a weird way. It's just like, I don't remember what my old boobs looked like. I don't remember what the sides of your boobs are supposed to look like. And then I know, like, everybody's different, nothing's supposed to look like anything. But then you see people like that wear, like, I intentionally wore a V-neck today. It's like a crossover. Well, actually, I don't care showing you guys. It's a crossover. And I intentionally wore this to plastics today because I wanted him to know that, like, my boobs shift. I mean, I can show you now. I don't care. So, like, here, it's not super predominant right now, but, like, you know, here's the V. I don't know if you could tell there. Like, here's the V of my bra. And this boob is all great, but this one's, like, shoved over. So my cleavage does not match with the... It's like the V-neck is... The V is here, and my cleavage is here. And, like, throughout the day, that just gets worse. Not worse, it just shifts. And then, like, my shirts start to, like, shift over onto this side. That can be fixed with surgery. There's one of two things you could do. You could take fat from the sides of my abdomen, which would be great for my love, not even my love handle so much, where he was pointing where he was going to take the fat from, but he said he could take the fat from, like, just either side of my abdomen and inject it, or he said he can go in surgically and just kind of like bring everything over, which I think I would prefer that, even though I know it's surgery and they're going back in, but they're going back into the scar that I already had. I'm not asking a million questions about that because I am not there, but I feel validated that he acknowledged, like, what was going on, even without, because I obviously didn't have a shirt on when I was in there. I felt validated that he was, like, hearing my concerns. Last time I was there, I felt rushed. This time he came in and he's very warm. He came in, he's like, how you doing? And he saw that I was at the gynecologist yesterday. And I don't know if he put his hand on my shoulder, whatever it was just like enough to be like, it's gonna be okay. And there's something about, like, I have a hard time sometimes opening up to the oncology therapist because he's male, like talking about your boobs or masturbating or something with a male. I just don't open up as much. Truck. But I actually prefer that my plastic surgeon is a male. Maybe, I mean, not him personally. I mean, just generally that it's a male. He's awesome, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like because I'm single and do hope to get into a relationship when all this stuff is settled down, because right now I'm a little busy and I'd like to give my all into my next potential suitor. There's almost something, like, reassuring when a male is looking at my boobs, like I put the Johnny thing on, like, you keep your jeans on and it, like, you know, opens at the front, obviously. And I don't care about, like, disrobing at this point. I don't feel like my boobs are my own. It's just like, here, show me the palm of your hand. Okay. Here, show me your boobs. Okay. You know, I'm not showing you my boobs. No offense. But, like, I don't feel, I haven't formed that bond with my foobs yet to have that feeling. So when he told me to, you know, to open up the Johnny, he was like, wow. Like, he was so impressed with his work, and so much time has gone by that, like, sorry, I keep boogers. My old body is just a piece of, like, crazy right now. Sorry, that was gross. Whatever. Oh my God. He was so impressed with what they looked like. And he could, like from the get-go, see that the left one, like, has some funky stuff going on. But that it's, like, easily fixable, which is good. But it made me feel so much better when, like, he's so proud of his work. Like, someday, I'd like, you know, the first partner I have, it's going to be a long time before I can feel comfortable, like, disrobing in front of a man that's not a doctor. And have them look at my boobs and be like, whoa, you know, like, look at me, how lucky am I? Anyway. Yeah, so there's options there. And, yeah, I just got to give myself a break from healing from the surgery and all the hubbub yesterday. It was a lot. I'm just going to work from home and do stuff from the couch. But I have to go because, like, I'm starting to cramp up out here and I need to eat something too. So plastics. Today it was where am I now? It's almost April 20th. So I had my surgery in August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, 8 months. So it's this point where normally, like, I'd have my nipples taken care of, like, you know, tattooed, or they can make a nipple, whatever. And I told them, not ready. Kind of enjoying not having nipples, especially, like, when it's cold out. Doesn't matter. Nothing's gonna get hard. So I don't know what I want to do. I'm not rushing into that decision, and I'm not doing another procedure to my body. If I'm going to get a tattoo, it's going to be the one on my wrist first because I have control over that. So yeah, holding off on that. I go back in October to see him, and then we'll go from there as to what I want to do. At that point, it'll be, well, clearly 6 months is my last surgical procedure, which is, I think, fine, to then go in and fix the asymmetry. But he seemed like it wasn't, like, you know, a huge deal for him to do that. And that's where I am. Also, with PT, because my physical therapist asked about, like, in the beginning, they said, like, don't maneuver anything in here, because they had to let the pocket, you know, get all settled and whatever. They didn't want anything to get messed up. At this point, I have the clearance to, like, she can do whatever she wants. So she wanted to do some myofascial work, because the fascia, I feel like it's very tight in here. My left side, not so much, but my right side is still very tight. And my frozen shoulder is, like, way better. I mean, but there's still, like in here, it's still gummy. That will take time. But even inside of here, like, it's just tighter than this one is. My left side moves pretty smooth, like, freely. My right side doesn't. And he said she can go to town with the myofascial work, so she'll be super happy. I don't know how that's going to work with my insurance, but I'll have them figure it out of what to do. So I'm going to go home, going to eat some food, and just rest. Just rest. If you're looking for calming things, I like to watch, like, National Geographic and stuff like that. Because I can fall asleep and not, like, miss something. And right now I'm watching behind the scenes of Animal Kingdom at Disney on Disney Plus, which is so relaxing because they're just like animals and I'm not in charge. I don't have to do anything and whatever. So I'll work around that once the cramping stops. So that's where I am. Can I finish in less than 30 minutes? Doubtful, but that's where I am right now. I haven't been vlogging all the time, because as frequently as I was, just because just sick of talking about it all the time at this point. I really am. Oh, a weird thing that I noticed too. So actually I'm going to go over 30 minutes, but what I want to definitely absolutely focus on is watching cues that happen to you, because I have very minimal makeup on today, watching cues that happen to you and not dismissing them. Because, you know, I don't blame, but I know that, like, it's still in my head that I probably had cancer for a year and a half before I actually got my breast MRI that I was supposed to have gotten. But granted, if I had gotten it when I was supposed to, the cancer probably would not have shown up. So in the grand scheme of things, the timing was right. At a point I was like, well, what if I had done the scan earlier? Could they have caught it earlier, that I wouldn't have had to have my boobs removed, blah, blah, blah. You could do all those what ifs. But the reality is, like they said, you know, we don't know exactly how long your cancer's been here, but I was supposed to have that scan in late 2019, early 2020, right before the pandemic shut down. And she's like, the cancer might not have been there, in which case they would have done the baseline, but there would have been no reason to go back, because I had, excuse me, I had weird symptoms, excuse me. I had weird symptoms, but not anything that would have been a red flag. So I feel like weirdly, things just, like, the timing weirdly worked out. But this time, when I had the brown discharge for a week, I was like, weird. When it was 2 weeks, I'm like, something's not right. Listening to my body, and I didn't wait. Granted, there's a lot of things that are on my to-do list I still haven't done yet. But I reached out to my gynecologist right away. And am I thinking poo-poo? Which I knew they weren't going to. But I'm so glad that I did, because it was that spotting stuff for 2 weeks. It was also, I had a pimple here, and I wasn't even sure if it was a pimple, because as you get older, you get like skin tags and 8 spots and crap. But when I was sleeping, I was like picking at it by accident, and it was bleeding. I got one here, I had one here, I covered it up with makeup, I had one here, got one on the tip of my nose. I never get pimples. And when I think of pimples, I think of hormones, and I'm like, something's going on. So you put all those things together, and I'm like, they might say, oh, you just got a pimple, it's not a big deal. I don't typically get them. So like, it is a big deal, something's not right. Lo and behold, I have a polyp, and I have a fibroid on the inside of my uterus that needed surgery yesterday. So you have to follow up with yourself. You have to be on top of things. Like, not to the point you're a hypochondriac, but if you notice something's not right, don't think that you're going to be like diminished, that, you know, oh, it's probably not a big deal. I'm probably overreacting. You know, you may be, but that's what doctors are for. Go in there and they'll let you know. Because as soon as I told them that I had spotting for 2 weeks, they're like, get in here right away. And I got in there less than a week later to have all this shit done. So do not question yourself. Do not question yourself. If something is off, you get it taken care of, and you follow up and you ask questions. And don't go on Google, because that'll just scare the bejesus out of you. The last thing I'll say is, when I had my breast biopsy, and through ultrasound, I had one through mammogram too, but the ultrasound one. And when that appointment was done, which I've shared in a blog before, I asked them, like, could you see anything? And I was prepared for them to say, no, we can't see anything. We have to wait for the test results to come back. But they told me, you're not going to die from this. And that's how I knew I had cancer. And I'm like, excuse me? You know, I won't go into that story. You can rewind. I think it was to my first vlog, because that's when I shared all that stuff. So they could see it visually. And same thing with uterine cancer. It's not just about polyps or fibroids. You can typically see things. You can typically see things in the uterus that would be a heads up that, like, it is cancerous. So when I asked my doctor, like, do you see anything that could be a red flag aside from the actual polyp and fibroid? And she said no. She said from everything that she could see, everything else looked fine. So, and I love my doctor, and I trust her ridiculously. She has found, I'm not going to get too much into my personal life, but she has found stuff that's changed the course of my life. Because of things that other people have blamed me for. I know that sounds cryptic, and I'm just going to leave that there. But I trust her. And she said she didn't see anything, so I'm not jumping to conclusions. And frankly, I don't have the capacity to jump to anything at this point. I'm just tired. I just have to rest. So with that, I'm going to sign off. When I find out the results on Friday or Tuesday, I will fill you in. It might not be right away, but it'll be what it is. So thank you everyone for support. And it's funny because that's what I wanted to mention. Sorry, I always mean for these to be short. Jen Rozenbaum made a comment in that interview. It was over a Zoom podcast thing that I'll share on the Facebook page. She made a comment that something like breast cancer is a lot worse after you don't have breast cancer anymore. Which is very accurate. Because when people found out I had breast cancer, they're like, oh, what can we do for you? Blah, 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 you know? Let's do ABC. And ABC didn't happen. And then, like I said, there were these wonderful angel friends that have stepped up. But I truly can count on one hand how many people actually ask me, how are you? I don't take it personally anymore. But it's true that when you first find out, people are like, oh. And then when you actually have the surgery to have the cancer removed, that's when all the hard stuff starts, which you'd think it would end, but that's when all the hard stuff starts. And that was when just people started disappearing from my life. And it is what it is. I feel like it's a regrouping for me. But with this, I didn't tell a lot of people that this was going on with me. Because, it just seems like less people care. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. So I let those 5 people know what was going on. And 3 of them responded to check in on me. And I'm like, wow, I just had surgery again. And 3 people asked me how I was, which is crazy. Because when people think about me, they're like, oh, hundreds of people, everyone in town. I'm like, yeah. And 3 people asked me how I was after I had the surgery I was not expecting, with only 600 milligrams of freaking Motrin. Still wrapping my head around all that. And extraordinarily grateful for the people that drive me and make me grilled cheese and send me cards and go for walks with me and just have their own shit going on, and will just say to me, Jen, nope, today's about you. You just met or whatever you need. That was friends. So, one of which I've known for a long time. One of which I haven't. Yeah, it's interesting how that all changes. But I'm so grateful for the people that ask me how I'm doing, because it's not over when the cancer's out. It's not. The journey is not over. All right. Gotta go eat. Bye, everyone. Listen to your body and be kind to yourself.